You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. You know, for the first time in a long time, I did not check White Sox Twitter for like several days.
Why is that?
All weekend long, I just didn't check it. It wasn't because I was like football fever either, because I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I was not really. It was on in the background while I was doing something else this weekend. That's how much I cared.
I was binge watching The Punisher on Netflix.
Right,
actually.
right.
So.
I mean, coming out of Sox Fest, the excitement of it, you know, making sure we got out the show. You know, if you think about it, we did a live event at Open Outcry, and the very next week we got our post Sox Fest show. Basically, I mean, it's just covered Sox Fest like a blanket.
Right.
And then I'm just waiting for spring training now, and I'm burned out on the Machado stuff.
I think we all are.
That's why I was like, I don't even want to look. And I actually posted on the Twitter feed, like, just realized we spent the whole weekend not looking at White Sox Twitter, and guess what? Nothing changed.
No, nothing has changed.
And it's not going to change. First of all, the Padres thing is a red herring.
Oh,
There's no way.
Yeah.
They can't even afford Manny Machado. They have all kinds of financial problems. Just Google Padres financial problems. They've had all kinds of issues. They don't have the money to get into a bidding war.
No.
They do this all the time. I found a recent article when I was searching around last week explaining that the Padres for years now have tantalized their fan base with promises of being in on people and then always come up short. But if you look at their books,
sounds familiar.
They don't have the money to do it. Where the Sox have had the money, like the argument has always been, well, the Sox have the money, they just don't spend. See what I'm saying?
Right.
They don't have the money.
No, the Padres don't have the money.
They don't have the money for this, so they're not in.
So here's what I read this week. I mean, and this was pretty much the only thing. I was happy, by the way, to see that as of late, the kibosh has been put on all this fake news as far as, like, you know, what Machado's being offered. And so we can thank, I would imagine we can thank, you know, Machado's agent for that. But what I saw this week was they put this spin on it where, and it was a national media article again, so I should have just dismissed it, but they were like, yeah, well, you know, maybe what Machado will do is he'll just sign like a 1-year contract somewhere because he's not getting what he really wants, because what he really wants is to play for the Yankees. So maybe he'll sign a 1 year and then he'll try to go for the Yankees for the big money next year.
If he was doing that, that would mean he believed that Nolan Arenado's not coming out, because guess what? Nolan Arenado is going to command more money than Manny Machado.
Yes.
And if somebody's going to spend the money, they're going to sign Arenado first, and Machado would be the consolation prize.
Right.
And so this is, first of all, it's not true. Secondly, it's perpetuated by somebody who's a Yankee fan who really wants the Yankees to get Manny Machado.
It was all put out by national media that just can't accept the fact that, dude, Machado's not going to the Yankees. Deal with it.
No. And like I said, this is a matter of time. This is the J.D. Martinez thing. We're going to wait until mid-spring training and he's going to sign with the White Sox.
And then just two Chicago people, okay? Guess what? Neither Harper or Machado is coming to the Cubs. Stop it. Stop it. Okay?
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
We've got pitchers and catchers reporting here next week.
Thank God.
Not here, not to my basement. That would be weird.
Why not?
They should come here first. We could get them all a drink, and then I'll drive them to Arizona myself. If any White Sox player wants to come here next week and report to my basement, let's say you report to my basement if you're a pitcher or catcher on February 10th. So I've got 2 days to get you to Arizona by the 12th when pitchers and catchers report. I'll drive you myself.
That sounds like a plane, trains, and automobiles
totally
situation.
Drive you myself. If you have an invite to spring training and you need a ride, all you got to do is come here. We'll have a couple brews. We'll record a little bit of Sox in the basement. I'll drive you to Arizona. It'll be awesome.
That's like a dude bro comedy waiting to happen.
I'm totally in on the whole thing. I think it'd be great. I mean, I'm trying to figure out like who would go. I mean, think about if we had like one of the non-roster invites that, like, you know, like Jordan Guerrero takes me up on the offer. You know, Zach Thompson shows up at my door.
Yes.
Colton Turner knocks on the door. I'm like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Colton Turner. I've been invited to the White Sox spring training. I need a ride. You know, I mean, I'll do it.
That's awesome.
That'd be hysterical. So, you know, they report on the 12th. Their first workout is the very next day on the 13th. Position players are on the 17th, and the first full workout of the team is February 18th. It's all happening. Baseball's coming back. You could tell because all of a sudden the Chicago media is paying attention. Now all of a sudden there's shows coming back that have been missing and guys showing up and being experts. You know, I saw Boomer Esiason in the national media weighing in on baseball the other day. I see sportscasters in Chicago that forget the White Sox are a team who now are forced to mention them in the last 3 or 4 seconds of their sportscast. It's all happening, okay? Baseball is coming back. So the other thing that is exciting this week to me is the video that got released by the White Sox social media accounts.
I just watched it. It was very cool.
Now, it was at the opening ceremonies of Sox Fest, supposedly, which I couldn't get into because you have to show up like 8 hours early and camp out with a tent to get into the opening ceremonies. They know everybody wants to go to it, but they don't accommodate the idea that everybody wants to be at the opening ceremonies when the players come out and see the video and everything like that.
Right.
So they have this overflow thing. You can watch it on TV. I watched it on TV in Kitty O'Shea's with James Fox of the Loop Sports.
Nice.
I think Clinton Cole was there too from Future Sox. Like we just sat in Kitty O'Shea's. Like one of them walked out, came back and said, it's already full. And it was like 2 hours before you could even, like it was even starting. And I'm like, there's absolutely no point getting into this line.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just watch it on closed circuit television in the bar. So that's when we watched. So anyway, the video comes out. It's on social media accounts. Now all White Sox fans can see it. First of all, it's neat. I wouldn't even mind if it was like their like warm up before the game started.
Right.
Or like it was played in between innings. I got no problem with that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
The quote that starts off at the beginning, which I think pretty much surmises what the marketing department is trying to push, where there is no struggle, there is no strength. Basically saying it's going to be a struggle this year. We're not even lying about it. We know it was a struggle last year and it's been a struggle for a couple years here, but we're trying to build something. You know, the marketing department really thinks hard about what they want to do. That's my impression. From somebody who
I would hope so.
has dabbled in marketing himself, worked as the head of marketing for an internet company once, worked as his own person and had to promote himself as 10 years in radio bouncing around the country, then does these podcasts that I do.
Right.
And then my sister used to work inside the White Sox years ago.
I remember that.
I have no connections as a result of her, but I know that she was in there. So every once in a while, she gives me an insight as to how it really works behind the scenes. She'll tell me stuff. They sit down and everything is calculated as to what they're doing. So what I did, like an Avengers movie, or like the Avengers trailer now, Endgame, like if you go online today, you could find like 15 different sites that are breaking down a 30-second Super Bowl ad as to what they think is going to happen in the Avengers.
Right.
I want to break down the White Sox video, the first one of 2019 that's been made public.
Okay.
Like an Avengers movie, and see if I can glean something off it. We're going to get a little nerdy here, okay?
Nerdy is good.
I'm going to get nerdy.
I'm pretty nerdy myself.
All right, so the video consists, and you can find it on the Sox in the Basement Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Sox in the Basement. The video consists of like a montage, and you can tell it had a Sox Fest feel to it because there's a point where Adam Engel's jumping over a wall and they interlay some quick video of Dwayne Wise making the catch. That was a big deal at Sox Fest. They handed out the catch bobbleheads. I got to give you yours today. I had
Thank
packed
you,
it in
by
my
the way,
luggage.
for
I've got it
getting
sitting
that.
there. So they had that, and then they do a little montage of Harold Baines making it to the Hall of Fame.
I did notice that.
So
right.
these are big things that it was. Sox Fest was centered around these things, but also these are things that the season is kind of looking back on. It's the 10-year anniversary of the Burley Perfect Game, and it is which means also the 10-year anniversary of the catch, and it is also Harold Baines' Hall of Fame year.
Yes.
Okay? So now let's go through what we see. You see clips of players playing. I'm going to tell you something right now. Guys that are left out of this video, guys that are barely featured in this video, there's a marketing reason for it. It's either they're unsure as to whether or not that person's going to stick for the whole year. They're unsure as to whether or not that person's going to make it through spring training. And there's only people that they're sure are going to be a part of the team. So, starts off with Renteria, see some Abreu clips, Moncada clips, Delmonico shows up. Yomer's all over this thing. He shows up in 7 different clips, including drawing a walk and flipping his bat. I've never seen that in a promo video. He drew a walk.
I didn't catch
flipped
that.
his bat, and like they showed like the bat like going like this crazy video thing. And I'm like, that's the most exciting walk draw in a promo video I've ever seen in my entire life. So he's in it all over the place.
Anderson was in it, obviously.
Daniel Palco's in it. Adam Engel's in it 3 times. Anderson's in it 4 times. But here's what I want to point out. There's points in the montage where guys' names pop up.
Yes, that's what I was
And
going
they
to get
name
to.
the players. Abreu, Moncada, Anderson, Kopech,
Kopech.
and James McCann are the first 5 names
Really?
that pop up. Okay? Then, the next time that they run through a bunch of names of the players, Ivan Nova, Kelvin Herrera, Yonder Alonso, John Jay, and Alex Colome. So all the acquisitions are in there.
Yes, all the new guys.
If you take out the acquisitions this year, and then Michael Kopech, who I found it interesting that he's going to be out the whole year, but they wanted to remind you that he's on the team.
Yes, I found that interesting too.
There are only 3 guys from last year's team who get the thing where they show their name across in like big bold letters. Jose Abreu, Yohan Moncada, Tim Anderson. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't feature anybody else.
I did notice
They
that.
feature a bunch of prospects: Mike Rodolfo, Luis Basabe, Dylan Cease, Zach Collins, Eloy Jimenez, Nick Madrigal, Luis Robert, Zebi Zavala.
Right.
These are all guys that I would say are on the cusp of coming soon.
Yes.
If not in 2019 and 2020, you're going to see them. These are also the prospects that they're really kind of pushing. It is noticeable. Remember, we talked about Blake Rutherford recently.
Not there.
Not
Not
on
there.
there. Just like he dropped off the Major League prospect list of the top 100.
Yes.
He's dropped out of the essential group that they're pushing as prospects. Note that. Because all these things are intentional. But also note this. Yomer's all over the thing. He was also all over Sox Fest, so maybe they wanted to make sure that they showed him a few times in the video.
But his name wasn't there.
Name doesn't show up. Daniel Polka.
Name wasn't
Name
there.
doesn't show up, okay?
Adam Engel.
Adam Engel, name doesn't show
not
up.
there.
Nicky Delmonico, name doesn't show up. Shocking to me, Carlos Rodon.
Yeah.
The only pitcher, the only starters that showed up on there are Nova, who's a new acquisition, so that's why they're showing him. They're showing
Yes.
because he's a new acquisition.
Yes.
And Michael Kopech, who isn't going to play this year.
Right.
And they're trying to remind you that he exists and he's coming back. But Rodon doesn't get his name there, and I feel like he's the ace. People were like stroking Lopez. You know, they were telling Reynaldo you were the best pitcher. A few people got up and said that during one of his symposiums.
Yep.
And you can make the argument that he was. But when I look at just the stretch that Rodon had at the back end of last year, that's the guy you not only want to be your ace, you need him to be your ace in 2019. If he's not your ace, he hasn't come through for you.
Right. If
and
he's
there's
not,
a problem.
If he's not your ace, you have problems because that's a very high first round draft pick a few years ago. And
but also he has the talent to do it. And the only
talent
problem
to
has been his injuries.
Yeah.
So, but here's the marketing department hedging their bets. We can't put his name on there. What if he gets injured? What if he doesn't come out and look as sharp as he did during that stretch there towards the back end? What if he looks like how he did in the last couple of games? They didn't feature him. They didn't feature fan favorite Daniel Polka. Okay, they didn't put his name up there. They didn't feature Reynaldo Lopez, and he was at Sox Fest. He was part of symposiums and he was signing things.
Yes.
They didn't feature him. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think what the marketing department does is say, who do we know is going to be on the team? Well, we know all the guys they acquired are going to be on the team because there's no way the White Sox are spending money and then the guy doesn't make the team. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
We know that the team loves Anderson. He's their draft pick and they're into him and they're going to stick with him forever. We know Moncada's on the team. We know Abreu's on the team. You're not going to mention anybody else. Why? Because you're still trying to pick up other free agents. You don't know what's going to end up happening here. Han even said it at Sox Fest. So you're not going to put
he said we're not done.
You're not putting Yomer's name up there as like the third baseman in case Machado's standing at third base. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You're not putting Polka up there or Engel up there or Delmonico. Like none of the outfielders' names are showing up on there because you have no idea what your outfield is going to look like. You might have guys that are going to come in spring training and steal a job. You know, Jimenez is going to get here, but they don't want to act like he's here already because, of course, they're going to hold him back for service time. You don't know on the outside chance Bryce Harper shows up, but you and I don't believe that that's possible. But they don't know how it's going to shake out in the outfield. So since they don't know how it's going to shake out, the names aren't featured.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as a fan, that's how I looked at it first, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. First thing that jumped out at me is like McCann. I mean, think about it. Like the first time they showed the names, it's like dun 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 dun. So there's like 5 names on all the beats, right?
Right.
Abreu, Moncada, Anderson, Kopech, McCann. Like what?
I saw Kopech, and that made me go, well, okay.
First of all, I was like, okay, well, Kopech, but they're just trying to talk about the future. And then very next is the guy McCann. He's on a 1-year deal and he's not the future. Like, I was so confused by that. But here's the one I want to point out. I took the 40-man roster and I put it up against the list of guys that show up in the video. There is a glaring omission that makes me happy. I hope it was on purpose.
I'm sure there's a few.
No. There's one glaring omission.
I think I know who it is.
You can take out, look.
I think I know who it is, but
they have the 4 starters. Okay, they've got the 4 starters. They've got Jace Fry in there. They've got all the big back-end closers. I don't expect Nate Jones to be in it. That's not like a glaring omission. He's not in it, but it's not a glaring omission if a bullpen guy's not in there. Okay, all of your starting infielders show up at some point. All of your basic outfield guys are at some point. Leary Garcia makes it in there. Here's the glaring omission. James McCann gets his name up there, and he's in the first 5 guys. Wellington Castillo is nowhere to be found in the video. Nowhere to be found in the video.
That was exactly who I was going to say you were going to say.
Isn't that that stuck out to me? Every guy on the 40-man roster, every guy on the 25-man roster, basically, that has a chance, made it in the video. I actually thought I saw Jose Rondon, like, making a diving catch, and he was a middle infielder who showed up for a couple of weeks. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And he was in the video in a quick little montage. I can't find Wellington Castillo in there. Now, there's a collision at the plate with the Sox catcher, but there's no way you could even tell who the guy is that's in the play because he's in his mask. It's bang, bang. And even if that is Wellington Castillo, massive omission. You go and you put McCann's name up there in the first group of players that you're looking forward to in 2019, White Sox fans. That's what the marketing department's telling you. Wellington Castillo, not in the video. Are you or someone you know looking to learn how to play a musical instrument this year? Then you should be checking out Westgate Music School, 6527 West 127th Street in Palos Heights. Private music lessons for all instruments, including guitar, piano, drums, voice, bass guitar, violin, banjo, ukulele, and more. Are you a vocalist? Are you ready to play a musical instrument and looking to join a group? Westgate Music School offers group classes for rock band, a cappella vocal, and barbershop quartet. Students of all ages and ability levels will have the opportunity to perform 3 times a year in a student concert. Gift certificates for Westgate are also available. More information, call 708-586-7002 or go to westgatemusicschool.com.
I found that.
I'm
very happy about this.
That's my Avengers nerd out moment.
Listen,
right there.
dude, nice. I am very, I want to see anybody but Wellington Castillo at the plate, man. Like, give me McCann, fine. Zebby Zavala should be up here, I think. Are we talking this year?
No,
right?
they're saying that they're Hahn has been really clear that him and Collins are starting to AAA, and they're not bringing those guys up till they're ready. And they don't, like listening to our conversation with Clinton Cole from Future Sox and listening to what Rick Hahn said, it seems, unless somebody comes out and just makes a case and bursts through, and maybe that's what the White Sox are waiting for. They're telling these guys, you're not making the team unless you're awesome. Maybe they're just, it's a challenge thing. See what I'm saying?
Right.
But you're going to see Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease this year. Those are the only 2 that you could put money down on that you're going to see. Now, the other guys that you saw that were prospects, they have a chance. I think it's great how we said Basabe is definitely in the mix for this year, remember?
Yeah.
And then you heard Clinton Cole bring him up when we talked to him in the interview last week.
Madrigal was in that group too.
But the thing was, here's Basabe also with his name up there. He's right there with Cease, Collins, Jimenez, Mike Rodolfo, Luis Robert, and Luis Basabe. These are the 3 big outfield names that were mentioned to me in the Cole interview after Jimenez.
Right.
And they're all right there. Again, Rutherford not even in there. So whenever anybody sits there and says, why would we trade Blake Rutherford for Jock Peterson? I'm upset that I haven't heard any more about that because guess what, guys? Blake Rutherford is down the list. And if somebody was willing to take him to pick up a 25-year-old outfielder who's already been in an all-star game and play center field, I would have taken that. I know everybody thinks I'm crazy for that and they're upset, but I would have taken that. Let's also take a quick look at spring training because I kind of want to get out in front of this and just kind of fill people in on what's going on with spring training. Because if you lived in Chicago this week, we got down to like -50 overnight
with wind chills. Yeah, the actuals were -25.
The actual -25 with a -50 wind chill. And it was 50 degrees on Sunday or Monday.
That's a 75-degree change
real
in
weather
temperature
change
in less than a week.
And a 100-degree change if you go with wind chill.
If you go with real field temperature.
In like 4 days, 3-4 days, 100 degrees it changed there. So now you're just like, baseball, bring me baseball.
Right.
Bring me baseball on a plate with some meat and some cheese and some mead. Not even beer, I want mead with it. Bring me some baseball like you're hungry for it, okay? So with spring training coming, in case you've been living under a rock, in case you're not exactly sure what's going on, let's just do a quick breakdown of what's going on in spring training this year.
Okay.
Like I said, February 12th, pitchers and catchers report. First workout is the 13th. That's for the White Sox. February 17th, position players report. February 18th, first full workout. And like I said, if a player or pitcher shows up and needs a ride to Arizona, free beer right here at the bar. We're going to chit-chat. I'm going to drive them down there. You come with me? You got a real job. I just do podcasting. I'm just going to drive down there.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Okay?
Sorry, buddy.
I'll drive a player down. If a player needs a ride, Sox in the Basement will drive them down. Okay? I'm not even joking.
All right.
They can reach out to us through the Facebook page, through the Twitter, Sox in the Basement, at Sox in the Basement, the at Sox in the Basement Instagram. I don't care. You could do any one of those things. They can call us just like anybody who listens to the show and leave a message, 708-459-8406. That's the line, 24/7, 365. You call it. You say something cool. You say anything, really. We're probably just going to put you on the podcast and talk about it. 708-459-8406 if you have any comments. And also,
So, like,
if you are a player who needs a ride to spring training.
I was going to say, so if it's like, 3:00 in the morning and you're just stumbling out of Brewbakers and you have an argument with your buddy
Of all
about the
places
White
you could
Sox.
pick, Brewbakers.
Hey, man, listen, there have been few bars that I've been to that have actually made me question my life decisions, and Brewbakers is one of them, man.
Okay.
But no, if you're stumbling out of there at 4 a.m, you got thrown out because you got in a fight with some other, patron of the bar about the White Sox and you need us to resolve an argument you can call that line. We'll put you on the podcast. So,
All right. So here are the non-roster invitees that are going to spring training. Pitching wise, Bernardo Flores, Jordan Guerrero, Jimmy Lambert, Zach Thompson, Colton Turner. Zach Collins is a non-40-man roster guy right now. He's not on the 40. Zebby Zavala is, but he's not on the 40, so he's a non-roster invitee, along with catchers Alfredo Gonzalez and Nate Nolan. Danny Mendick, infielder. Very interesting name as a non-roster invitee.
Okay, why
if you
is
were
that?
paying attention during the Rule 5 draft and listening to us back then, he was one of the names that came up as there was a fear that he could be swiped off of the White Sox. That somebody might say he's good enough and he might make a major league roster. And there was a question as to whether or not the White Sox would protect him in the Rule 5 draft. So here's a name that doesn't get talked about a lot, but he had a nice season last year and could be major league ready as a utility role. Here's a non-roster invitee that I think, based upon the buzzos around him in the Rule 5 draft, the possibility that somebody might have picked him up, the word that the White Sox didn't actually protect him, even though they considered protecting him. Here's a guy as a non-roster invitee that could impress in spring training and win a job. He should be going to spring training saying, I might be able to get that last infield spot. Or at least I want to impress, so they put me on a 40-man roster next year.
Because all big fish free agent signings aside, like if things stand in the infield as they are, you're sort of in the market for a utility infielder, are we not?
Well, Rondon is going to be back again and
Okay.
have an opportunity at it, but Mendick could very easily sit there and say, no, this is mine.
I mean, but Rondon is your only option is what I'm saying.
Right.
For that.
No, you want more options.
Yeah.
So here's a guy who could fight his way onto the team.
Okay.
So I find him to be an interesting name. Outfielders that are non-roster invitees. Luis Gonzalez. You keep hearing about this kid. He's like not on any top 100 list. He's mentioned only by people who really follow White Sox prospects, and they love him. Okay?
Okay.
And one of the comments that I got during Sox Fest was if he looked like a big hulking mass of a human being, people would talk about him more. He plays like a big hulking mass of a human being, and he's a heck of a ball player, but he doesn't have the look. So
Now he wasn't.
he may be one of these
didn't
guys
see-
that's not regarded as well, but actually is going to come out and surprise. So there's another name.
I'm just curious, real quick. He did not see any big league time last year, did he?
No.
No, I didn't think
No.
so. But the name sounds familiar.
Well, there's been a lot of Luis Gonzalez's in baseball.
Well.
like there's like 3 or 4 of them that come through every decade in Major League Baseball. They play for multiple teams.
Nice.
Luis Gonzalez is a pretty basic baseball name.
like
If you were making a baseball player on like your MLB The Show video game, that would be one of the suggested names that you could just use if you wanted a generic baseball name.
or like anybody with the last name of Alomar.
Or some guy whose name starts with Chipper. You see what I'm saying? Like, Chipper Jones was like made in a factory, and his name was perfect for baseball. Luis Gonzalez is just a basic baseball name. Blake Rutherford is a non-roster invitee, so they haven't given up on him.
No, they have not.
Okay, and Charlie Tilson, who I there are some people who like him. I see him in the first round of cuts. Charlie Tilson is one of the first guys that gets knocked out.
Now, Tilson was up here last year.
He was,
he?
and I don't see anything great coming out of him. I don't.
Okay.
I don't see anything that, unless it's like one of those things. The only way that Tilson comes up onto the major league roster is if they don't want to rush up a guy that they really care about. Like, he's the guy that comes up because there are other guys that they don't want to ruin because they would bring him up too early, and that's what Charlie Tilson is. And his time for being that guy is going to disappear very soon. Because with Jimenez coming up and with the outfield getting crowded and with some of these other prospects that are on the cusp, Charlie Tilson's days are numbered. Charlie Tilson needs to go out and hit like 600 in spring training to keep his career alive with the White Sox. That's what I think. Okay? So, but those are your non-roster invitees that are coming to spring training. And like I said, there's some interesting ones in there. I know Zach Collins has publicly stated he wanted to make the team this year. I think he's a long shot to make the team this year. Okay? But he's publicly stated it. Again, like we said, Wellington Castillo doesn't show up in that video. There might be at least, hey, when the marketing department went to, Han and the rest of the guys that are making the roster decisions and said, who should we feature, or showed them the first draft of it or something like that, they might have said, you know what? We can't 100% tell you that those are going to be the two catchers behind the plate. We know McCann's going to be one, but we can't 100% tell you, and that's why you don't see Castillo in the video. Because nobody wants to look stupid. Like, you're not going to put together a promo for a guy that isn't going to be there.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You don't want that thrown back in your face.
I mean, he's going to start the team with them. Or he's going to start the year with the team,
I would think
Castillo
so.
would. But I mean,
there's too much money invested.
Right.
Okay. But what if some guy blows the White Sox out of the water? Like, here's the thing. McCann comes out, and he's doing just what they expected him to do. And they obviously like him, and they want to keep him.
Yes.
Okay. So you got Castillo, who you have the perfect excuse of, all right, well, we're going to have to eat some money if we let go of him. Maybe we can move him someplace if we decide we don't want him. I mean, here's a guy with a year control, and there's teams out there that might be looking for a catcher. See what I'm saying? So and the price tag isn't too high. He might be somebody that you move. They might be sitting there saying, we would like to still move him because he's not a long-term consideration. If somebody came and blew them out of the water at spring training, like let's say Zavala improves on what he did in spring training last year. Last year, that guy hung on for far longer. You never heard the name Zebby Zavala if you were a casual baseball fan until spring training last year. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? And then all you hear about is this year is that all of a sudden now he's in that group of guys. Let's go over the guys that were in the video real quick. I mean, it's real obvious. I had heard of Mike Adelfo.
Yes. I
had heard of Basabe. I had heard of Cease. I knew who Collins was. I knew who Jimenez was. Nick Madrigal was drafted by the team, but I mean, once you heard him, he was a first-round draftee. You knew who he was. Luis Robert was like a big deal when they go out and they pick him up. Zebby Zavala would not have. You would, if I would have said all those names and then Zebby Zavala, the casual White Sox fan would not have recognized him the way that they recognize all the other names that I just said.
Right, because he wasn't a high draft pick, and he wasn't somebody that we acquired.
And like we said, he's older for a minor leaguer.
He wasn't somebody that we acquired in a blockbuster type deal like like a lot of those other guys were.
But he had big pop in his bat, and he played great in spring training last year. What if he comes out and does even more than what he did last spring training? I mean, what if they put him in a couple situations against guys that are going to be on opening day rosters and big league pitchers in Major League Baseball during spring training, in the back end of spring training, and he is ripping the cover off the ball?
Well, then you got.
Do you really want to send him down?
It's a good problem to have.
Because you can sit there because then you're like, okay, fine. Zach Collins gets more starts at catcher, and we don't have to worry about rotating the two of them, so they both get enough time to play.
Yeah.
And we just and Zavala comes up, we just have to move somebody out of the way, and based on that video, it's Castillo that they would move out of the way. That would make the most amount of sense,
one
right?
way or another. Because you're not going to carry three catchers.
No, I can't see you doing.
You're not going to do three catchers.
You might start the year with it if you think that you might be able to deal him.
But then Zavala is sitting around up here on the bench. He's only playing once a day, maybe twice.
You'd have to play Zavala. That's the thing. So I don't think he makes it, but I just think that there's an outside chance. Like if we're talking about outside chance guys that could make the roster, you look at those non-roster invitees. And you look at the guys that are in the video and you try to kind of figure out what do the White Sox think. Zebby Zavala could possibly do it. there's at least the outside chance they think one of these catchers could break through in spring training, but they're not going to put the pressure on them that we expect them. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think that there's still the outside chance that White Sox management would be perfectly pleased and happy if these guys made their decision very hard and Zavala or Collins pushed the issue in spring training and made the team. I don't think it's a done deal. If you were going to bet on it, I'd say both of them are in AAA, but it's not a done deal. See what I'm saying?
Right.
And like I said earlier with the other guys that are interesting non-roster invitees, Gonzalez and Rutherford, non-roster invitees, Danny Mendick, non-roster invitees, guys that you're going to be interested in what they do in spring training. Like I said, if Blake Rutherford needs a ride, I'm here. Okay? Blake, it's me and you and Danny and Luis. We'll road trip. I got room. I'll take the SUV. My wife can drive around.
You better check that with the wife.
My wife can drive around in the 2008 Saturn Aura that I've got that's falling apart, the second car. She can take care of the kids for a couple of days while I drive to Arizona. Okay? If I take the truck.
Yeah. It's worth a try.
I can do that.
Worth a try.
I don't listen. It's for the podcast, sweetheart. We've got to do it for the podcast. I want Daniel Palka to go and take a ride with me to spring training. Okay? He already wore the Sox in the Basement hat around Sox Fest. We didn't even meet him, and he found the hat, and he was walking around wearing it. Multiple people have confirmed. I never saw him in it, but he gave interviews wearing a hat and everything else. I would love to just ride me and Polk smash.
Oh, boy.
Heading down to spring training.
That's a car ride, man.
Really? I mean, come on. I'll pack the cooler. We'll do some funny little video spots on the way down. We'll post them. We'll drive to Arizona. We'll stop at the Grand Canyon if he wants.
It's gonna be like
whatever he wants to do. We'll hit some dive bars.
You have to do like you ever see those
whole thing's on me too.
You ever see those cartoons where like you have like the traveling car and it's just giving you the perforated line across the United States map and it's like circling all over the place when people get lost.
Me and Danny Polka riding from Chicago to Arizona. I think it's brilliant. I think that we could do that.
You'll have like a slight detour in Vegas.
But I'll take anybody.
Even though it's not on the way.
Bernardo Flores, non-roster invitee pitcher. If he wants to show up at the door and jump in the car, I'll drive him down there. That's fine. Okay? It's an open offer. Nobody's going to call me. And it's going to hurt a little bit. But I just want to put it out there. I will drive a White Sox player down to spring training. We will have so much fun. Okay? Me, you, and my 3-year-old, because there's no way that she's going to let me go without him. No, I'm just kidding. We'll leave him behind. We'll drop him at his grandparents.
Yeah,
we'll drop him at his grandparents. She'll be like, you're taking Nikki, and this way, that'd be great. Nikki Delmonico and my kid Nikki, the two Nickies in the car. You see, I'm coming up with ideas here, Dave.
Another show is wrapped up. Another show's in the books. Another show is wrapped up. And then by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. And we'll see you next week. And the nude is basement. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And it's in the books. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. Nudist Basement. Broadcast Basement. The Nudist Basement. The Broad Basement. Slancha. That was like Dropkick Murphys or something, right? I felt like it.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found. And always on soxinthebasement.com.